Eric Hanson bought REI's best-selling backpacking gear, tested it out, and will tell us if it passes or fails. And I'll chime in with my own thoughts because we definitely don't agree on some things. Welcome to the Backpacking Blisters podcast, brought to you by Enlightened Equipment. Check out the gear that passes all tests and the company you can absolutely trust to make high-quality ultralight gear at enlightenedequipment.com. With me today is a man who's traveled to the far corners of the earth to film the absolute best adventures. Eric Hanson, how's it going today, my friend?
So good, Carl. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, well, man, it's my honor, man. You mentioned this might be your first, straight up true podcast you're on. So yeah, this is, like I said, it's an honor.
I've listened to at least a dozen podcasts, but I've never been on one. So thank you for initiating me.
Absolutely. All right. So I don't know if you know this, but Backpacking Magazine has ranked you as the number 2 best backpacking TV personality in the world.
What? I did not know that.
Any guesses who's ranked above you?
Ooh. Are they going to say like Bear Grylls?
Yeah, that's correct. That's
really?
correct. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
second to Bear Grylls. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, he's a good personality, but you're pretty good too. I think the only thing he's got on you is a cool accent.
His name is better. I love my name, but Bear Grylls, I mean, that's as cool as it gets. I think that he was made in a lab for being a TV personality. Accent,
made
name,
in a lab.
The Royal Air Force background. Yeah.
Right.
Now there's some debates about other things about that guy, but anyway, that's for another day.
No, we did an episode a few years ago called 10 Lies Bear Grylls Told You. So we're past that.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, you've gone on some of the best backpacking adventures around the world as evidenced by your YouTube channel, television show. So from your perspective, which one is your all-time favorite?
That is a genuinely difficult question. At this point, this is going to sound braggy, but I think that I've been to over 100 countries by now, just in general in my life. And
that's a lot.
Half of that is probably not backpacking related. That's just travel. And then about half is backpacking related. But I would say that the place that stands out to me far and away as my place is Patagonia.
Okay.
Patagonia in South America. Both Chile and Argentina sides are just absolutely incredible. And I feel like I did a trip through South America when I was about 11, 12 years younger than I am right now, and was early on in my kind of freelancing career. Traveled South America for 7 months solo. And then that window of time that I spent in Patagonia was critical in my life going in the ways that it is. And I just was so enthralled by those landscapes and kind of really lit a fire on me for backpacking and traveling and doing what I'm doing now.
That's great. Yeah, that's on my list of places to go for sure. I knew this was going to happen, but my personal favorite from your channel was not the same one. My favorite of your adventures was the one to the Arizona court system. That was my favorite one.
Oh my gosh. That, oddly enough, is at the bottom of my pile.
Yeah. Well, I mean, isn't that what adventures are? It's some of the worst parts of the adventures are actually the most interesting, right? The most challenging parts.
I mean, that was among the most memorable trips that I've ever been on.
Yeah. And we've Dan Becker's been on our show. So that was the trip where Dan Becker had some health issues in the Grand Canyon. But the other end of that story was after the evacuation, you were trying to follow the rules and camp out later that night after being absolutely exhausted. And the ranger got you, basically.
It was a really interesting scenario because we'd had this medical emergency that was hugely stressful for everyone involved, as well as we've already done the rim to rim in the North Rim in winter, about 10 feet of snow, physically decimated at that point. And I think one of the rangers that we talked to kind of was giving us a break and was just go do this thing, just go camp over there. And so we were following that person's directions. And then unrelated, there was other rangers that got involved, and it just became a can of worms. And it was very unfortunate. It took about 6 months at least maybe 8 to resolve in the court system.
For sure. And I think one of the reasons why I find it so interesting is because we've had some ranger encounters, like they've been kind of ongoing stories on our show, and we joke about being blacklisted from Yosemite, but I never got like a court summons or anything like that. And one of the guys that listens to our show who goes to the Grand Canyon, he's been a few times. He's actually from Texas. He had a situation, wasn't nearly as dire as your situation, but basically where people were having a really hard time making it out of the canyon, like the people that weren't fit enough to go down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon were down there. And so they had to crash out overnight, and they didn't have the permit for that. So their workaround was to not set up a camp, just to like sit there on the side of the trail, rest for a bit, and then continue on. And they got a court summons for that too. I'm just wondering if the Grand Canyon Rangers are among the most aggressive of all the Rangers.
Well, I've heard that there are a couple individuals. I don't know if it's like systemic, if it's just like the Grand Canyon Park Rangers are just out for being to the letter of the law.
Right.
I think that may be the case because it is such a dangerous park and people get in trouble so much there in physical trouble.
Right. 100%.
So I think they are trying to do things to improve behaviors because there's consequences. But I also think that there might be 1 or 2 rangers that are just like coming down on people.
Yeah, that's part of it. Like I've read stories where, you know, people are like, well, I want to hike to the bottom of the Grand Canyon, and they're bringing like a suitcase with wheels on it, and they're wheeling it down with like half a bottle of Diet Coke. And so I just wonder if they're just like, dude, we've had enough of this. Like we're going to start penalizing people. So I get that.
And I think in my situation, they specifically came after me because they knew I had a social media presence, specifically YouTube.
Like, how do you know that they knew that?
Because of the court proceedings. They basically talked about it openly in court that they were choosing me. They wanted to make an example out of me because I was higher profile than your average hiker.
So like, were they kind of like, you YouTuber who thinks you can put these videos out, like kind of like in that tone of voice?
Sort of. So what was interesting was I don't think any of them had like known what I actually do. They just knew, oh, this is like, we heard that this guy's like TV/YouTube guy. So he must be just one of these internet people that's kind of a ding dong. And like, and then the other thing was like the judge specifically, she said this too, that she wasn't able, because it would potentially like make her biased. She couldn't watch my YouTube channel. So she couldn't like do any investigation. So she was just treating me as like,
because you might suck her in with your personality and be like, hey, this person's actually like a nice guy.
And that's what, I mean, that was part of my argument. So I had to get a lawyer, but it was like, hey, I spend my channel actually trying to educate people, trying to like instill good behaviors, leave no trace, like educate people, try to keep people from getting not in trouble. I'm not just out here glorifying the like leaping off of cliffs for, you know, like kind of like Red Bull stuff or for like, just to be exciting and to, so I think that there was some misconceptions there, but then they weren't like allowed to like bring in evidence because it wasn't a court trial. So I don't know. It was weird. And my lawyer was like, we could take this to court.
Okay.
And you'd 70% chance win. But then it was also like, well, that'll add another year.
and the fees, right? Like the lawyer fees, which would be more than with the the fine that you're going to end up paying.
I mean, the maximum fine that I was up against was $5,000. And it wasn't the money that I was worried about. I was worried about, actually wanted jail time. They wanted like to have, and then also potentially like banning me from the national park and potentially the national park system. So that was where I was like, if I just plead guilty,
oh my goodness,
I can basically take a plea deal and like negotiate. This is what my lawyer negotiated. Will basically accept a fine up to the max, which is $5,000. Just negotiating away the jail and or other things like lifetime bans or 5-year bans or whatever. And they ultimately went with that.
So a guy, okay, let's just play this out real quick. So let's say you got the jail time. You're in jail. Some guy, he's like big and burly and smells bad and is cracking his knuckles. He's leaning over you. He's like, hey, so what you in for? Like how do you respond to that?
Well, what's funny is that reminds me of, so after I pled guilty, I got charged. So I actually have like a criminal record, and I had to go present myself to the US Marshals, which were like in the room, in the building, the same building, but like the room next door.
Right.
So I had to go in this room. There's all these like 12 dudes with like weapons on their hips, and like, big tough dudes.
Yeah.
And they like see me come in. So they're like, give me your papers. And they're like, all right, what are you in for? And I was like, camping out of bounds. And they're like, but for real. And then they like look at the paper and they're like, Jimmy, Steve, Bill, get over here. And they just like all gather around, like look at my charge papers and just erupt in laughter. And are just like, this is ridiculous. Like camping out of bounds. Oh my God. So it was actually kind of a good moment for me.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, other people realize, how ridiculous it is. And then I suppose you could just threaten them and be like, hey, you put me on a train with other fugitives. I'm going to escape and spend my free time proving my innocence. Just FYI.
Ooh, Richard Kimball throwback. Hey.
There you go.
Nice.
Anyway. All right. Well, I'm glad it sort of worked out. Like you still had to pay a fine, but you obviously didn't have jail time. And so, I just found it interesting with all the other national park stories and ranger stories we've had, like that I found highly interesting.
Yeah.
The other one I recently watched was your Kilimanjaro video. That was really eye-opening for me. I knew it was a popular mountain to climb, but I've never seen, like the way that you captured it, massive crowds literally crawling all over the mountain.
That was nuts.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
Did you have to constantly like wait for people? Like was it constantly just like this line of folks?
So that day was particularly bad. And that was, I climbed Kilimanjaro just in February, which is the very end of Tanzania's dry season. So it was entering rainy season. And so there was there's basically like a weather deadline. And so what we saw was that the trips kind of like, I think the number of trips probably tripled in that window of guide companies, agencies trying to basically probably selling, just being like, get them in.
Right.
Weather's coming.
For sure.
So that was a factor. So there was way more than normal. I've had a lot of people comment on my videos. Like I did that in January and there was nobody there. So like, what the heck was that about?
Yeah, what's going on?
I don't know.
That's what I saw.
Yeah. It's just what it was. And then there was a feature on the trek. Call it a climb, but there's really no technical climbing. But that section has a feature called the wall. And it's like hikey climbing. So you're kind of like using your hands, but you're no ropes or anything like that. But there's most of the mountain, you can kind of spread out. You can kind of be like a 5-lane highway that's just kind of using this trail that is a little bit wider. But that part of the wall, everything gets like compressed into a 2-foot passage. So everybody has to go through a choke point. And that's what made that day just so wild.
So you need some like hand sanitizer after that, after going through that little choke point, if everybody's on there.
Yeah. There was actually a tradition. They were like, kiss the rock. It was like 10,000 people's lips have been on this thing. Sweaty, grimy. Yeah. I had no thanks.
Right.
Yeah. It was like the Blarney Stone kind of thing.
Okay. The other thing you mentioned was that 3 porters per person per like climber.
3-to-1 ratio on the mountain.
I don't know if you're gonna, throw around like your YouTube channel at this point, but if for me, I'd be like, look, I can carry my own pack. I would have such a hard time like letting people carry stuff for me, I guess.
Would you want to carry your own toilet?
Yeah, I have like the wag bag.
It's an actual toilet, not wag bags. Like it's like a box you poop in.
Okay, do they keep it in there? Like once you go
for a period of time, and then there's like, it's kind of weird. The sanitation on the mountain it's like any mountain. There's not like plumbing down the mountain. Right. So they've the national park has done I think a good job overall of like maintaining a really clean mountain experience. But there's basically like little sacrificial zones, which are like pit toilets that were built.
Okay.
And so what will happen is these trekking companies will carry private toilets, and then the guides have the less pleasant job of dumping that into the pit toilet.
Okay.
And then moving the box to the next campsite.
Gotcha. So you're in the middle of the hike and you're like, I have to go to the bathroom. So you go to the porter and say, can you please unload the toilet so that I can go? And then you go, and then they load it back up on their back.
Well, I think in our group, we didn't have any roadside deposits. I think we were able to keep them all for camp. Okay. So that we did the ethical thing. But I think in most situations, they wouldn't actually do that. They would just be like, go off trail 100 yards or so, find a boulder, and leave it there. And so you'd go off trail just to like pee, and you would see little trail treasures along the ways. Okay. Wasn't terrible, but they were around.
Okay. Check out the rest of that video. There's a lot of really interesting stuff going on there. So those are just a couple things I picked out. Okay, so let's get into the main content here. So you put out a couple of videos where basically you were looking at REI's top sellers and just kind of like evaluating that gear. So my first question is, how do you know these are REI's top sellers? Like, how did you get this data?
So Miranda goes out, Miranda in the Wild, who used to work for REI, clued me into basically some sorting functions on REI's website. And she said that they're actually surprisingly accurate. So you can choose these little like drop-down menus of filters to add to the gear. And then I basically tried to cross-reference with REI employees that I knew, that I was asking them, was like, does this line up? And they're like, oh yeah, we sell that more than, at least that's more anecdotal because it's like not across, but it's like, oh yeah, the copper spur or the, whatever that's what we sell the most of by far, at least at this store. So I was like, oh, okay. So using the filter function that's just on their website and then cross-referencing with some.
Because some of the things on the list, I'm like, I can totally see that being a top seller. And then there's a couple of things that were, I was like, really? Like,
what surprised you?
The Jetboil Flash was number one for sure.
Yeah.
Mainly, and you addressed it in your video, but mainly because of the cost, where there's alternatives out there that are similar. I think they've even straight up like stolen the patent because I think their patent ran out. And so it's like similar function as far as like fast water boiling. And the cost on that thing just keeps on going up. And so I thought with increasing costs, it's just not a lightweight stove. Like, it is super fast and there's a place for it. Don't get me wrong, but that surprised me the most for sure.
And I think, so what's interesting about the Jetboil Flash is I think that's the one where people who are, especially in the YouTube space, we get really focused on ultralight a lot. And we kind of like, I wouldn't say it's exactly a echo chamber, but it kind of is. And you're a little bit unaware of like what everybody who's just like, I go camping or backpacking once a year, twice a year. And then you just kind of wander through stores and get what you think is cool. And Jetboil has good marketing.
Right.
So I think that's why they sell a lot to people that aren't.
Yeah.
Cause and I think like you could get something that works just as good for $20. So
for sure. What's funny about that though, is you mentioned the echo chambers. When people come on the show, because I actually do use the Jetboil, like they call me like, hey, Captain Jetboil, so you're the Jetboil guy or whatever, like as if it's like some sort of like badge of dishonor and among the content providers. And so that's another thing too, is why. Okay, let's talk about the Jetboil first. All right, so Jetboil Flash. Fun part of that story was you mentioned going on a backpacking trip with like 5 or 6 other people, and they all had Jetboil flashes.
Every single one of them. Literally every single one of them brought their own Jetboil.
To me, that's like the worst scenario. Because it's so stinking fast at boiling, that's my scenario for when I'd bring it, is I'd bring one for 6 people because it just goes, you're just cycling through it so fast. That's the time I do that.
And we even talked about it like before we set off, and they're just like, but I want mine. So I was like, okay, we could share one, but everybody wanted their own. And that's how most people,
they wanted their own. Okay.
And like my friends, they're like very experienced outdoorsy people, but they just don't spend any time on YouTube. So that's just, I don't know. That was their mission, I guess. I don't know. That was just how they decided to do it.
Wait a minute. Wait, do they, your friends do they watch your channel?
No, they don't. A couple do, but mostly they do not.
So some weird thing could happen on a backpacking trip, and you're like, actually, I made a video about that, so you may want to check that out when you get home.
I try to get my friends to watch my YouTube videos, and they're just like, man, just tell me. I don't got time for that.
Rehash it.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. All right, so Jetboil Flash. Okay, so the way that we're gonna do this is you got to give it a pass or fail grade, and a passing grade means like you're gonna be willing to bring this in a future trip. You see scenarios where this is gonna come. It doesn't have to come on all your trips, of course. And a failing grade is like in all or most cases you prefer an alternative piece of gear, and if you don't mind sharing which one that is, that'd be great. So where do you stand with the Jetboil Flash?
To me, that's a fail. For sure.
Oh, okay.
It's a quality product.
Yes.
For what it's designed to do, but I will not go backpacking with it.
My wife demands that I carry it when we go together, so I have.
So okay, so you mentioned the friends. I went on the exact same another trip 3 months later with the same exact friend group. I brought the Camping Moon XD2F with a Soto Triflex adapter and the Fire Maple petrol pot. And they all nest together exactly like a Jetboil. And that was outperforming the Jetboil Flash. And every single one of them was like, I'm getting that instead. They was like, you just sold me on this thing.
Wait, outperforming in terms of speed or efficiency?
Yeah, everything.
Oh,
well, I mean,
wow.
I don't know about efficiency, but it was like light it up and Jetboil going at one time and the Fire Maple petrol pot going at the same time and that pot boiling faster.
Wow. Okay. All right. Then
for half the cost.
And it's gonna be cheaper, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Next up is the Osprey Atmos backpack.
That's a fail.
What?
I love the Osprey. I started backpacking. No, I didn't actually start backpacking with the Osprey, but I have a lot of years in an Osprey Atmos. I wouldn't say I'm done with traditional backpacks, like the big full frame stuff, but I just don't use them as much. And I used to be like the Mystery Ranch guy. I used to be like guy who had 5-pound packs and told people you should be using these. And then I just started using more ultralight packs and I was like, ooh, I think I like ultralight better.
No, I do too, but I still feel like there's scenarios like you mentioned. So you just went on a pack rafting trip. Mm-hmm. We talked about like I just went on a trip to Canyonlands where there's a long water carry, and so I'm carrying weight that the ultralight packs aren't designed to carry. So like I had a Gregory Baltoro for my trip. Yeah. What were you using on your pack rafting trip? Are
you familiar with Darwin's Evolved Supply Co. Expedition Ranger pack?
I haven't used it, but I'm familiar. Yeah, he's talked about it.
So Darwin on the Trail has a gear company. I live in Flagstaff, Arizona. Darwin lives in Flagstaff, Arizona. He has a gear shop in downtown Flagstaff. So I've gotten to know him over the last couple years and started using some of his gear and was basically trying to test his Expedition Ranger, which is his biggest volume pack. So it can hold like 80 liters of gear. So it's a gear hauler. And his pack, actually, I prefer it over a fully framed pack that also weighs 3 more pounds.
Evolve Supply Co. wins out over the Osprey Atmos, so I'll have to check it out.
In my opinion, yes. Yeah, hey.
Fair enough. Next up was Nalgene. The Nalgene bottle is one of the top sellers. I couldn't believe it. That's crazy.
I think that's because there's so many people in their 40s like me that still are just like, I grew up backpacking with Nalgenes and I ain't stopping.
I'm in my 40s and I've been bashing them for years.
It's just the most common thing. You know, you go through REI and they look cool, they're sleek, they're colorful, they sell a ton.
They are.
I still use Nalgenes occasionally. I use them a lot less, but to me it's a pass. I will
pass. Okay.
But here's the caveat. I understand why people don't use them anymore. I think I just have so much nostalgia for Nalgenes, and there are situations when I want. So like on my pack rafting trip, I like fashioned a Nalgene that had a strap that I could carabiner to my boat. And it's just like, I just kind of like that. Like, it's almost like a Stanley mug that's just like, it's not ultralight. Man, I don't backpack with Stanley mugs, but there's just something that's like, I just like how it feels. So I use it.
Gotcha. And you're able to drink from it at all times without spilling.
I dribble. It definitely have the dribble for sure.
Okay.
Especially in a vehicle, changing speeds.
Vehicle, exactly. Doesn't fit in the cup holder. It's like awkwardly rolling around. All right, yeah. 6.2 ounces empty, but that got a pass from you.
That's because I spent 15 years using only Nalgene's before people started being like, "Hey, there's lighter options," and I was like, "Oh,
right,
but I
right now, there's a ton of options. I don't know if you know this, but like if you do a video where it's just like the best water bottle, it'll get a ton of hits. I don't know why
they're hot right now.
So popular.
I do like the Migo bottle a lot. So the Mazama Migo, I'm a big fan of that, and that's actually been my go-to for the last couple of years. But I can't quit a Nalgene, like totally.
Okay. So Nalgene gets a pass. Okay, Big Agnes Copper Spur Tent.
So I just got their updated version, and I did not like it.
Oh.
But I have their old model, and I love the old model. They just made some updates that I was not a fan of. Really simple things. The fly material is like really thin. I actually don't know
nylon, I think,
what it is. I think it's still nylon. And it got caught in the zipper every dang time I opened it.
That's annoying. Okay.
Literally every single time I had to fish it out from being tangled. And they made a few other updates that I was like, boo. So I like their old one, and the new one to me is a fail.
I'm going to ask about that. We have one of the Big Agnes founders has been asking to come on our show. And so I want to ask about the tent, the rainfly getting caught in the zipper thing, because that's not unique to that tent, obviously. Like, I feel like there's a lot of tents where it's like, no matter how you do it. But I will say, though, I did learn something from the video that I should have already known this, but you were pointing out how with like the nylon, when it gets wet, whether it's from condensation or just moisture in the air, it'll sag significantly.
A lot. Sags a lot.
And I've experienced that, obviously. I always just assumed it was like I wasn't pitching my rainfly out like tight enough with the guidelines, but that's just, I didn't realize that was an issue.
I admit that I get lazy with setting up my tent. As like a lot of times it's just relatively mild conditions, like not really hardcore mountaineering type weather. So I can get away with just like four corners, stick out the doors, call it good. And and then that's where it's particularly susceptible. But even if you stake everything out, that silk nylon will stretch. I mean, I don't know what the numbers, like the actual data would say, but it feels like 30 to 40, like maybe not 40, 30% of, actually that's probably still too much. But anyway, a meaningful amount of stretch where it'll just, if it gets wet, it will, no matter how tight when it's dry it will really loosen up when wet.
It's interesting.
It's super saggy.
Yes. Okay. That's one I actually strangely just sold one of my, I had a 4-person one when we take group trips, and I just recently sold it. It's just like an older one, and I really like that one. I think I could see myself buying another one, but now you might be warning me off based upon the not liking the update. So I'll have to re-examine that one.
This is really nitpicky, but it was two things. It was the rainfly kept catching in its own zipper every time I opened it. And then they updated the connection, the way that the rainfly connects to the main body. The inner tent is this buckle instead of like, kind of putting it through a grommet. And that buckle, it would just get grit in it, and then the buckle wouldn't close. So I'd have to like clean it for every time. And it was just
like blow on it,
shake it, flick it. Like there would just be like, it's like a little piece of sand or something like that. And it will keep my tent from being able to close or open. And that was really annoying on that trip. 8-day trip, and every time I set it up or tore it down, I had to like mess with it to be able to get the connections to either accept or to release.
I could understand being frustrated by that, 100%. Okay, so fail on that one. Nemo Tensor, what you got on this one?
Okay, it's not my absolute favorite mattress, but that's a pass. I like the Nemo Tensor.
So I've used the Nemo Tensor, and I liked it, but I feel like once you get a leak in it, like watch out. It's just, I like plug the leak, and then there's like a leak somewhere else, and I just can't seem to find it. And I know that there's other folks who've had this problem before. Have you had leakage with your tensors?
I sliced one with like a sharp rock, and I was able to
Okay.
patch it in the field. But I've had the same
Oh.
tensor for with the update, the all season updated one for pretty much since it came out, which I think has been what, 2+ years. I'm not actually sure how long it's been. So I was able to
Okay.
patch that, and it's been rock solid. I erred in how I sliced it, and then it's held up otherwise great.
Okay. So you got another pass.
Here's the thing about mattresses, and I think that's where this is like a manufacturing thing. And this is one of my, like, I don't know, this is pretty nuanced, but all manufacturing has like some degree of fail rates that get through quality control. And most of
Right.
the time, it's not a thing that just has to perform like a mattress. So I think there's just more mattresses on the market that sneak through quality control, where other pieces of equipment are also sneaking through with quality control issues. We just don't know it.
Yeah. You're going to notice it because it's going to leak on you. You're going to get terrible sleep. So that's interesting. Okay, the only thing you had on the list that I have not personally tried was the Nemo Disco or Riff sleeping bag. So, yeah, I haven't had a Nemo bag before.
Okay. So if you're still using mummy bags or mummy-like bags, technically Nemo says it's not a mummy bag, it's a spoon-shaped bag.
Right.
Because there is more room. There is more room than a mummy. But it's definitely my favorite sleeping bag where you're enclosed. So a non-quilt, a non like Zenbivy or Enlightened Equipment or whatever it might be. I don't know. I've just had it for a couple years, and I've taken it on a bunch of trips, and maybe I'm just fond of it more so than it's great. But I don't know. I just like, it's a great
It's a
bag.
pass?
It's a pass. Although I don't use a ton. I definitely use quilts and or Zenbivies more than anything else these days.
Okay, the Black Diamond Spot, I feel like that's been like the tried and true. That this did not surprise me this on the list. Like, I know back in the day, it was Petzl had the market share for headlamps, but I feel like the Black Diamond Spot for the last 10 years dominates. So, but yeah, what do you think on this one?
It's not my go-to at all. So that, to me, it's a fail. Even though it's a perfectly good headlamp for what it is, I actually think Nightcore has been doing more to create a better headlamp than Black Diamond or Petzl. The Nightcore is basically my preferred. It's lighter, it's cheaper, and it has better luminosity. But the Black Diamond Spot, if you have it, don't get rid of it. It's a great headlamp. And then this was something that I don't know how you feel about AAA batteries. This actually was the most contentious thing in that video, and this surprised me.
Is the annoyingness of having to put them in there, or that versus rechargeable?
Okay, so the Black Diamond Spot has, when you buy it from the store, you need AAA batteries.
Right.
You can also buy a Black Diamonds, like something that takes the place of AAA batteries, like a rechargeable insert, but that's another $15, $20.
Right.
And so most people are using AAA batteries for this. And I was like, I poo-pooed that. I was like, who's still using AAA batteries? And actually had a lot of people come out of the woodwork, be like, well, I don't always have power banks. I don't always have the ability to recharge, but I can just stash AAA batteries and then I can put them in. And I was like, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people thought I was very wrong on my opinion on that.
That surprises me, actually. I would not have guessed you'd get that feedback.
Yeah.
My Black Diamond Spots, I've got multiples now. They are what I give my kids for camping and for backpacking because, like they're the lower end. I would rather have a rechargeable one or one that you could recharge in the field because I don't want to carry extra AAA batteries. Like, who wants to carry that?
And this is where, like, I've done some like shorter through hikes, but not like a full through hike. And I think the idea is that people can like mail themselves battery stashes.
Oh, okay.
And then they can arrive at the post office, throw in new AAAs, and keep going.
Right.
As opposed to being like, cool, I'm charging my headlamp now.
That makes sense. My theory for through hikers, though, like real through hikers, unless you're like hiking at night, I don't think they're using their headlamp that much, or that they don't even need a headlamp, because I think that you can use your flashlight on your phone if you need to. And I just feel like they're crashing. They're not like hanging around camp, at nighttime where they need to like do these odd jobs and things. And so I just wonder how how much you actually need the headlamp in the first place for a through hike.
It's true. And when you're on the trail that long, you develop night vision. So you don't even need illumination at all. That's not true, in case anybody is actually wondering about that.
I bet there's people who make the case for that. They're like, actually, I hike so much at night. Anyway. Okay, last one is a staple, the Helinox Chair Zero. This one's actually going on sale, I think, this week. When this episode's out, this week, it's like 25% off at REI, and it's one of their top sellers.
Go get it.
Pass?
It's a great chair. It's a pass. Yeah. I actually, I went through a kick with the Nemo Moonlight Elite for a while. Still love that chair a lot, but I have found myself going back to the Helinox Chair Zero more than the Moonlight.
Yeah, it's the most comfortable backpacking chair that's in the 1 pound range, in my opinion. There's more comfortable chairs that are heavier, of course, but in the 1 pound range. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm either taking the Nemo Moonlight Elite or the Helinox. And to me, it's one of those two. Both are great.
I think I'm with you on almost everything. Oh. I'm definitely a fail on the Nalgene. I don't want to bring Nalgenes anymore. You said fail on the Jetboil Flash, and I'm generally a fail. It's just circumstances. If I'm cooking for the group or if my wife's going along, I'm bringing that. So that's more out of obligation, I would say. So
okay, yeah. So it's got an asterisk.
There you go. All right, there you go. So these are REI's best sellers. Do you agree, disagree? Where do you stand with this stuff? Are you packing AAA batteries? Are you throwing those in your pack, like for real? So I'm curious about that. All right, we got Eric's Summit answer for out of that list, what is his absolute favorite piece of gear? Okay, so the Summit answer is brought to you by Summit Something. Let's be honest, if you're still bringing a beat-up cardboard sign to the Summit, it's time for an upgrade to your gear list with something that's probably missing. Summit Something makes ultralight packable Summit flags designed for hikers and climbers who want to capture the moment and keep it forever. I'm going to personally be bringing some of these flags up Half Dome on my next trip to Yosemite in the next few weeks. And assuming I make the Summit, I'll be putting it up somewhere in my house to display as a keepsake. You can get a Summit flag for all sorts of peaks at summitsomething.com. If you're looking for a sign, this is it. Eric, what is your Summit piece of gear favorite from the list?
This is gonna just enrage everyone, but it's a Nalgene.
Nalgene.
I've had the same Nalgene on rotation for more than 20 years.
Okay. Wow.
And it just tried and true. It's half mold by now, but
you mentioned in the video that you're like, these things are like virtually indestructible. And I have actually seen one punctured in my lifetime. I found it in Yosemite, and it was like bitten by a bear. It had like a bear tooth puncture in it. Thought that was kind of cool.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's the only time.
So that means a bear can apply more pressure than like a vehicle's weight.
In that one like tiny pinhole type spot, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, yeah. So watch out for the bear bites. That is pretty crazy.
Yeah. Can't help you there.
Yeah. Before we get to the lightning round, when we have a YouTuber on, I always like to make video suggestions, and so I've got 3 for you. So I want to know which of these video suggestions you would most likely make. Here are your options. A, I hiked the entire Arizona Trail, and I only drank Arizona iced tea. B, I found the ranger who fined me for illegal camping. I had words with him. C, I hiked to the top of Everest and removed 3 dead bodies on the way down.
Well, if we're just going on what's most likely to happen, it's definitely B.
Yes.
I've been in the Green Canyon 5 or 6 times in the last year and a half. I guess I'm just more likely to run into that ranger and to be like, yo, we need to talk. What's up? Can we hash this out? Why? I'm not very likely to climb Everest, let alone pull dead bodies off the.
Well, we've done Kilimanjaro, so I thought it was.
I'm planning on going to Nepal in the fall, so maybe that will be on cue. But and I do want to hike the Arizona Trail, but that will probably be sponsored by Element.
Okay, not Arizona iced tea.
Yeah.
Not cans of it that you're
not
bringing
cans
along.
of Arizona iced tea. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. We got the lightning round coming up right after this. Here we go. The lightning round is brought to you by Magnet Designs. I brought the Bend Alpha 90 hoodie to Canyonlands a couple weeks ago and loved it. I used it as a mid-layer, sun protection, and hiked it with varying temperatures. It's definitely coming on my next trip to Yosemite. Check out the Bend Alpha 90 by Googling Magnet Designs. And so here we go. Lightning round. Average is like 7 or 8 questions, but we'll see how it goes. Timer starts. You ready for this?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay. Timer starts after I ask the first question. What is the best thing about Arizona?
Public land. Lots of it.
Name one trip on your bucket list.
Himalayas. Hopefully coming this fall.
What is your biggest outdoor fear?
Drowning / going deep in water.
What was the last nightmare you had?
Almost drowning, going deep in water.
Wow, really? Okay. Something you got in trouble for as a child.
Picking my nose and spreading a booger on the wall and blaming my brother by getting caught.
Sorry. One innovation you hope to see in backpacking.
Packs that carry you.
Okay. A non-backpacking skill you have.
Speaking Spanish.
Something weird you bring backpacking.
Weird. A journal? Does that count as weird?
And time. Not everyone brings a journal, so I'll take that. I mean, you might just not bring weird stuff. I don't know. I've always got strange stuff, so.
Oh, man. What do I have that's weird?
You got to go with our group more.
Sometimes I go with bidet.
I think that's like less weird, I think, than the journal.
It's true. I have thoughts. I write them down.
If you talk about you want to get feedback, talk about putting toilet paper in a cat hole, you're going to get the bidet police coming out and just like lighting you up. So
that's true. Okay. Well, let's stick with the original answer. Let's stick with journal.
Okay. I think you hit 8. So well done.
Yes.
You got to the 8, and then okay, you mentioned the drowning thing. And so before we hit record, you talked about, like, I know you got the video coming out, but you went pack rafting in the Grand Canyon, right? Like in Colorado River, Grand Canyon.
Just
and
about
you
a week
had
ago.
A scary moment where you almost, like, you went underwater deep into
Yeah,
the water.
I mean, I wouldn't say that I almost drowned, but I did. So I was pack rafting using a little tiny boat that I carried in on my backpack and ran rapids in the Grand Canyon, which is a high volume river, huge rapids. And one of the rapids I got knocked off my boat and disconnected from my boat, and the rapid basically sent me to the bottom of the river. And I don't know how deep I was. And I have a video of being basically down at least 20 seconds before it let me back to the surface.
Well, you have a video?
So,
like somebody was videoing this?
So like I had like an Insta360 like mounted onto my boat.
Oh, okay.
And so my boat flips over. You see me just drop into the abyss, getting swirled down this like little turbulent whirlpool action. It's creepy. It's weird. Right. And then you don't see me again. But somehow the camera, because I think it's connected to a boat that's above water, sound was traveling through the boat. And 20 seconds later, you can hear my buddy when I resurface. He starts telling me to breathe and like asking me if I'm okay and like telling me to grab onto his boat.
Wow.
So you can like count it in the time frame of the timestamps of the camera.
That's crazy. You got that on video.
I mean, it's mostly just looks like bubbles, but because like the camera's underwater, right. But you can hear, and then you see me disappear. And then, so most of the rest of it is like, you're just having to use your imagination. And then you hear like my buddy, like it's really muffled, but you can like pick it out. It's like him telling me to breathe and asking if I'm okay.
Dang, okay. Gotcha. All right. Well, that's where the nightmares come in.
Yeah, so that night I didn't sleep.
Yeah.
I was in the river that a whole night. It wasn't technically a nightmare. It was just, but it was like it was a waking. I can't sleep because my brain is thinking about this thing.
On a lighter note, you blame your brother for stuff.
Oh, that's the point of having a brother.
That you got me on that one.
We have the same voice. Yeah, we have the same voice. We have we get it. I mean, we don't look identical, but if people aren't, we get confused for each other sometimes, especially when we were younger. And I was able to, my brother also had a big nose picking habit. So it was like plausible. It was like, oh, that booger was Dave's. And
you passed the self-confidence test. How do you know somebody's self-confident? If they're willing to talk about picking their own boogers on camera, then you know that they're comfortable in their own skin.
My life is an open book.
You've kind of referenced a couple things you got coming up, but is there anything specific like coming up soon on your YouTube channel? I'd say the next couple weeks we can look forward to.
So the next video that's coming out, I don't know when this will come out, but I went on a 8-day expedition in Mexico to also go pack rafting. And it was one of the best trips of my life. So I got to go with my wife and a group of people, and we explored a place that was a combination of Rivendell and Pandora.
Oh,
and if that ain't cool, wow. I don't know what is.
That is super cool.
So that's next. And then my next trip is I'm going to Alaska, Anchorage and Denali and some areas coming up in a couple weeks. So very excited about that.
Okay. This feels early to go there. Is it not?
June is early, but fine.
Okay.
At least for like certain areas. If we were mountaineering, it'd be really snowy, but around Anchorage and Denali, it's freed up, supposedly.
Okay. So fun stuff coming up. Eric, man, a pleasure and honor having the show. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me on. This was a blast. I appreciate it.
Yeah, a lot of fun for sure. One last thing. When REI announced it was selling camping Lego sets, people were lined up for blocks.
Hey-o.
Have a good weekend. God bless.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.